Hello and welcome back to another new edition of Windows on Current Affairs, and today we continue our comprehensive and thorough look over the latest IMF loan. Of course, the first tranche, $2.75 US, have been approved by the board of the IMF, and in order to approve the first tranche and all over of the loan, the $12 billion US, of course, we're going to receive the 2.75 as the first tranche. In order to be able to approve the loan and the first tranche, Egypt is supposed to fulfill certain prerequisites known as the economic reforms, steps taken by the Egyptian government, lifting subsidies, liberating the Egyptian pound or floating the Egyptian pound to the US dollar, and there is a lifting of subsidies over the fuel and energy and other commodities. Of course, a series of painful steps to the citizens. It is required, it has been delayed, but it is supposed to be taken as a remedy for the Egyptian economy. Some would say that this IMF loan is going to inject more money into the Egyptian market, and thus in return it's going to reflect a lot of confidence, self-confidence in the investment climate inside Egypt, and attract foreign investment and invest new confidence into the Egyptian economy in front of the whole world. Of course, there is a debate between this and that. We're going to be exploring all the facts on the table, and we're very delighted to have with us Dr. Salah Abdallah, a former member of parliament and an economic analyst. Good evening, Dr. Abdallah.
Good evening.
Let's talk about the first tranche that is 2.7 billion, of which the IMF Executive Board have already approved. Of course, to be able to approve that tranche, Egypt have already taken the steps already, the prerequisites on which this tranche is supposed to be given to Egypt or arrive to Egypt and effected in some projects, but on the condition that Egypt is not supposed to use that money on national projects, because national projects consume liquidity of money. If you'd like to elaborate on this, please.
This loan has two positive signs and one major negative sign. The two positive signs: number one, it gives a certificate that the Egyptian economy is safe, and this, of course, reflect itself on foreign countries and companies who want to invest in Egypt. The second, it increases the hard currency in the bank, and this strengthens the local currency. But it have a negative result, which is to have this loan, you make many measures, you say it now, like freeing the local currency in front of the dollars. And this, of course, decreased the power of the Egyptian pounds. And this will reflect itself on the prices. That's why the prices is increasing hardly now in Egypt. The problem of this kind of funds, not in Egypt alone, in all the world, that when the prices become very high, the people suffering too much.
Right. If you can allow me, Dr. Abdallah, we have with us Dr. Hussein Shariba, an economist and a financial expert. Good evening, Dr. Shariba.
Good evening, ma'am.
We were talking about the IMF loan and the first tranche, $2.7 billion arriving to Egypt, or has been approved by the board of the IMF on the condition of approving or fulfilling some prerequisites. Some economists were debated that they have fears that there are repercussions for this, the lifting of subsidies, the freeing the Egyptian pound against the US dollar, and lifting the subsidies over the energy and fuel commodities and all that. This is going to affect some chaos inside the market that could not be able to be controlled by the government. And the first one, or the most one, who's going to be suffering is the Egyptian citizen. How would you read that?
Well, what they have said is correct if you don't have a correct government, but we do have a correct government. So what they have said, it's not in Egypt. because we do have a control on our pound, on our commodities and our values over there. So when you go and say, I'm going to have a loan, this loan is for a certain period, and it's for a certain item, and it's for a purpose. It's not going to go and fulfill the fantasy of our life. It will fulfill the necessity of part of our life. It's not all of our life, because you have also, we have used the people support in this matter, and you could find that almost like between 60 to 70 billion Egyptian pounds was being calculated and gathered from the market for some certificates, bank certificates has been done. This shows you that people have the confidence with their government. They have with the ruling today. So why should we be worried about 2.7 billion US dollars, which is coming right now from the International Bank? When the International Bank is approving us, is approving that we are capable to give back the money, and we are part of the International Bank. So they are not giving us from their own pocket, and we are not going to take this money and run away. We are as any other countries. We get money, and then we'll use it in a certain thing, which the government has already assigned it for it, and we are ready for this. Let's stop the negative part of our way of saying things like this, because if you don't act and you don't do, and what you have done and what you have acted is very well studied and very well accurate manners. So why should you listen to someone who is really afraid of himself?
Right,
So,
Dr. Sherif, but people debate it's not the loan that people are afraid of or economists are afraid of. It's the prerequisites or the conditions that are set for this loan that people are a little bit reluctant to be able to accept, which is more than one thing at one time. Will the layman in the street be able to absorb all that with his very limited salary and his very limited or declining to half his savings and his own salary, almost 50% less? This is the concern of the Egyptian street. Also, people are talking about the cutbacks in the subsidies that is going to affect in the hiking of prices, the reform of the currency that is going also to affect some little setbacks in the market. These are the things that Egyptians are fearing, not the loan itself.
well,
this is one of the opinions.
Let's agree on one thing. Nothing will make the price go down unless I have a very high quality of work done in Egypt. And this has to be done not by the government, it's by everyone in Egypt.
Right.
So when you say something, we have to, anyone should be afraid. If you want to not to be afraid, absolutely work hard, do your job, do your assignment very correct, then wait for the results. The results are positives, it's not negative. Because when you do your job, if you are a farmer, you farm your land in the right manner, the right way, with the right way of irrigation. If you are an employee in working in steel factory or anything like this, you have to make that your steel product is the top on the line. It's not any steel. If you want to say that I am a teacher, you should educate the kids very well to make a very good candidates for the future. So everybody is doing. So you could be worried from today until the end of the world, because if you are not doing your job, that's very simple as this. Because the government, when they do a loan just to support some certain things and to help everything go refresh back again and go. Whenever there is a economy chaos, sometimes you have to not only to close down your factories or anything like this. You should start improving your quality, go for a better one, and open more than one stage. Don't close it. Open another one. It's like President Sisi, and they have assigned some people to go for the 1,500 factories, which is for textile, which is closed. And they have created a new company to support them for their needs. This is the right and target manner. Don't look negative. You have to look positive. And when you're always afraid, it's not a bad sign, but it's a good sign if you start working. If you don't work, and you think you are afraid, and okay, be afraid because you don't work, but you have to work.
Right. Dr. Hussein Shariba, the economist and financial expert, would like to thank you very much, sir, for your time. And going back to you, Dr. Abdullah, that's how Dr. Shariba would comfort the worries and the woes of the Egyptian street. How do you see it on the other side?
I don't agree with what Dr. Shariba said, in fact, because people are not worried from the loan. People are worried from the measurement, which is the government.
Exactly, that was what I was saying.
Unless the government
and efficiency of the government
understand that they have to do some measures to let the people being satisfied and they can tolerate what is happening.
With credibility.
And this will be, number one, increasing the social justice. You can't let in the society very, very rich people, and in the same time you have people doesn't find, in a very poor condition. Number two, the salaries will not be enough with this increase in the prices. The prices increased double and triple. Okay? Even look to the sugar, how much the price now, other things now. So unless there will be a measurement to increase the income of the people. This is people who in pension, million in pension, their own income is very low and they are in very bad condition. This is number three. Number four, you have to increase the taxes on the high income to allow the government to have enough money to pay for the poor. The social measurement is very important. Not you are not working, you have to work. Okay, they have to work, but they have to eat, they have to live, they have to pay the rent for the houses, they have to pay money for the children in the schools. We have to look to the life of the people, not just to give them address that they have to work, and because they didn't work, we didn't have enough production. We know all this, but now the Egyptian pound had been dropped from dollar for 6 up to dollar for 8 up to dollar for 15, sometimes reach 16. Okay, the reflection of this on the internal market, on the people, on the poor, what the government will do. According to the measurements government will do, I can say that the matter will be succeeded or failed. We will pass this era safely.
So it's based on the efficiency of the government. But let me ask you a question here. When people are accusing, certain people are in the government or officials are accusing the Egyptian street or the Egyptian citizens, the below the poor sector and the middle class, you do not wake up and you do not stand up on your feet and you don't work hard enough to be able to effect production and all that mumble. Well, they all know for sure that there is a ceiling on salaries in the governmental sectors. No matter how long of hours you work, you still have a fixed salary. So even if they keep working 24/7, they will still have a ceiling on their salaries.
Yes,
so why are they urging them on the wrong direction? This is one
didn't
thing.
encourage them by a system. You have to put a new system.
Incentive.
To encourage people to work more. If you work more, you can gain more. Okay? But this doesn't happen even in the government sector or the private sector.
Or otherwise it's going to be slavery.
This is the question.
Right.
And second thing, you have a new measures, a new projects to let the people have more work. Where is the new project we have? Where is the new project?
The whole country is full of projects. We're doing nothing but projects right now.
Still in the preparation time.
There's the new capital.
It's very good. The new capital, okay, at least 50,000 are working there. This is good. You need many
And there is also
projects.
Sinai. President Sisi, to be honest with you, was the first Egyptian president who succeeded in really, honestly, linking the Sinai Peninsula with the rest of Egypt and the rest of the Arab world. This particular act, a very courageous act, have effected in laying foundation for whatever you can think of developing projects on that particular huge area, which is very fertile for many developing projects and developmental ideas, universities, companies, tourism, investment, all kinds of investment. So this could be one incentive also.
What you say all is true, but where is the role of our rich Egyptian people in making new projects in Sinai to accept more labor hand? Give me the name of one or two projects our rich people doing in Sinai now.
During King Salman's visit to Egypt earlier this year, there were many agreements signed for Saudi projects in Sinai.
Many agreements, even in the conference, economic conference in Sharm el-Sheikh, if you remember, we signed many agreements. The only agreement which was true is Siemens agreement. One, Siemens agreement. Even the agreement for the new capital from the person from Emirat or an Emirat company, they withdraw. Now we are doing the capital by our hands, and possibly just Chinese may share us. You sign many agreements, but what changes from paper to true work is very few. And our Egyptian people, our rich Egyptian people, they didn't spend enough money for projects inside Egypt.
Where does the money
either
go?
in Sinai or in any place.
Okay, given what you're saying, if you're given the fact of what you're saying, those people who are enjoying a huge income every month and decent money every year with no capital gain tax on their huge incomes, where is their money coming, and why are we spoiling them and not letting them get away with the capital gain tax, for example, not enforcing any taxes on them, and at the same time they are not using the money in investing over here?
The answer of this question is at the government. The government have to answer the question why they don't put high tax on them, why they don't encourage them to work inside the country, part of their own money to be inside the country for investment or projects inside the country. All these answers, the government doesn't give it care. Doesn't give it care. This is the question. So, in conclusion, it depends upon how the government measures will support the Egyptian people to pass this hard economic era.
Well, speaking about the government have announced earlier that they have rolled out a number of social programs that they say is going to assist the middle class and the poorer sector to be able to cope with the new economic reforms. Hopefully those programs are going to be able to find some, give comfort to the people who are in great worry and panic about those latest economic reforms. Do you have any idea about, if you can elaborate on those social programs that are going to be affected by the government, and if they are going to be really implemented practically on the ground in a successful way?
In my opinion, what the government said up till now is not enough. Is not enough. The government said that they will support the very poor families. Okay. How many these very poor families? What is the number of these very poor families? How you count them? What about the Egyptian employee? They are not poor?
A huge sector in society.
What about the
people on
pension? 9 million families. They are not poor. The government doesn't give anything really. The people need to feel things really. When I give you this in your hand, paper in your hand, this means that you take this paper. But when I'm talking, we have many years of talking. We need to feel, the people need to feel something really. We will do that tomorrow. Okay. Like President Sisi now, he gave an order to free, I think, around 82 young people from prison today, I think.
Including Islam al-Bahiri also.
Yes, including all.
This is a wonderful step by
This is good because now
US
you
presidency.
find that 82 persons became out of jail. Okay, what is needed from the government is that to let us feel about their own program. Let us feel this program. We are now having talking, but we didn't feel anything. Let us feel the program. Then we can say this program is good or is not good. But what is happening is talking.
So you think
the prices is increasing and the government is talking. I will tell you something. I was reading on the television that the sugar in the country is enough for many months, and the wheat also is enough for many months. This is very good. I want to tell them something. I can't find 1 kilo of sugar in Maadi area, let us say. Okay, where is the sugar which is enough? Okay, if everything going like this, so.
Another side effect to the reform programs is that some elements of greed inside the Egyptian market, they take advantage and opportunities out of the situation, and they effect a hike in prices. They hold the commodities and then they effect a hike in prices with no surveillance whatsoever.
This is what
is the government supposed to do? Many people have been complaining about this.
This is a good idea. The people now hiding things and they sell it with a very high prices, and when you ask them, they say that the dollar became very high. And also it is old commodities, things before the prices of the dollar increased. I went to buy one battery for my car. It was 300 pounds. When I went within 2 days, the man told me 600 pounds. I asked him why. This is not an old battery. He says the prices became like that. Okay. Because where is the government? There is nothing. There is nothing.
This is something very serious.
This is what I said.
In those cases, you are a former member of parliament. There should be something official, and we're not going to invent the wheel. There should be something to be able to stand up to these practices, because this is a flagrant violation of the law. What is supposed to be legislated immediately on the spot, like the pardon decree that was made by President Sisi, to be able to pardon the prisoners of opinion and speech and all that, and that was an overwhelming step by the president. All what we see now is all the efforts, collaborated efforts, are only being taken on the president's shoulder. And he is the only one who is trying to develop with the country by his own hand. It's only one-man show, but it can't be an only one-man show. He needs supporters. There is the government, there is the parliament, which is a very important element, and then there is the people of Egypt. The president can never be able to do all the things all at one time by only one hand.
If the president will do all the job, what is the value of the government and the parliament? It's better.
Where do you see the role of the parliament in this hiking prices and this violation of the prices law?
If the parliament are active, they have to ask the minister of trading, okay, and the prime minister, and they have to have an immediate strong stand against what is going in the market in Egypt. Okay, they can push the prime minister to have some decision against those traders who are raising the prices without any base. The parliament member, I'm sorry to say that, they are not keen enough about the people. Okay, the ministry is very weak. They just working, in the loan and in the things, and maybe they are putting some plans for the future. But what about today? What about the people now?
Usually in developed countries, what happens in those cases? They have market, they have developing economy, they have buying and selling every day, and they have consumers' life, and they have trade all over their countries. So what happened to be able to regulate the prices?
You have to control the market.
Do they form committees, surveying committees, surveillance?
We have many
law of
committees.
Enforcement that could be effected on the spot with fines?
Yes, you have to increase the punishment for those traders who are using.
But how do they reach everywhere? What is supposed to be
done?
done?
If you give the people telephone numbers of certain committee who is responsible on the market, they will find anyone.
There is the Consumer Protection Agency, and do you think it's doing enough?
It is not active enough. It's not active enough, and they didn't have strong decisions. You have to need strong decisions. That means if one of the traders are paying more prices higher than usual, you have to close his shop, and you have to take him to the court, to a rapid court, by meaning that it will not take years until it take punishment. Punishment will be very rapid, so the people will feel that there is
effective justice, and also the traders will feel that there is a law, and there is a strong government. You need strong hands nowadays, but not a weak hand. And that's how we defeated terrorism.
Yes.
We had a strong fist by the our brave army and security personnel, and that's why we were the #1 leading country in defeating terrorism.
If we work against corruption with the same
strong
power, we fight terrorism, we will pass all this area by a good way.
This was going to be my second question. The bureaucracy and corruption, two very thorny elements or issues that had not been controlled in this very moment. Political instability have been effectively like 90% reached to a good extent in almost 3 years or less than 4 years under the rule of President al-Sisi. We have come a long way. Only for corruption and bureaucracy, we are unable to defeat it. No matter what we do, we are unable to defeat it. And even the local investors, this is chasing local investors away. So if local investors are chasing or fleeing away from corruption and bureaucracy, what would the foreign investment do?
Because still the law is very weak, and if you take any person to the court, it will take long time, so it doesn't give enough punishment to those corrupted person. The corrupted person know that at the end, and then he will flit away. That's why you need to change the law to be more stronger, to be more active against corruption.
Right. If you can excuse me now, we have with us Dr. Ibrahim Higazi, a member of parliament, over the phone. Good evening, Dr. Higazi.
Good evening to you and to your dear guest.
We were talking about the efforts that are collected in the hands of President al-Sisi throughout the 3 years that we have come a long way, it is very sure, but we have seen almost nobody in the scene significant by President al-Sisi taking everything over his shoulder to be able to comfort the woes of the Egyptian man in the street and developing with economy, defeating terrorism with the Egyptian army, and effecting a lot of decisions in the best interest of Egypt.
Yes.
But this can't be a one-man show. There must be other supporter roles in the background with the president, like, for example, the government and the parliament and the Egyptian citizen. As a member of parliament, where do you see the parliament's role until this very moment? And we all know that the second round of parliamentary sessions have started already.
Yes, well, as a parliament member, I think we have two main roles to play in the political arena. Number one is setting legislations that can protect the poor and then protect human rights and democracy, as well as try to ensure that the smooth transition in our current economic reforms. So this is number one, legislations. The second, which is as important as number one, is the issue of monitoring and control. So this is the second arm of by constitution, by 2014 constitution, that Parliament is responsible to two things: legislation setting as well as control monitoring. Plus, of course, overlooking the fiscal budget and the monetary budget of the government. Right now, I think this is extremely important with the loan of the IMF. There is a lot of economic reforms, and there is a lot of positive as well as negative consequences. So our role as parliamentary is to look at how the government is setting the plan to protect the needy and the poor sectors of our society from the harsh negativeness of the economic reform. Naturally, you expect to have positives, and naturally, you expect the balance will be more toward the positive than the negative, such as the influx of foreign direct investment to Egypt. And number two is the tourism. We expect, of course, that tourism will be boosted by the devaluation of the Egyptian currency. And third, but not the least, is the issue of exports. So this is our role as Parliament, is to monitor and make sure that the direction is, number one, to promote these three things as positive, and second is also to make sure that there is a set-in policies to protect from the negativeness of the economic reforms.
Dr. Higazi, how are we talking about attracting foreign investment, and until this very moment we're talking, the Parliament haven't been able to effect a working investment law until this very moment?
Well, the investment law for the Parliament to look at it has to be presented first from the government. And until now, the Minister of Investment is working on a sort of an opinion feedback from all stakeholders related to the new investment law. So that's why we cannot do anything except waiting as a committee of the Economic Committee in the Parliament for the investment law to be submitted. However, there are movements going on, especially if you hear nowadays that we are trying to offer initial public offerings, IPOs, to sell parts of our public sector companies in the international stock market.
Right. Dr. Higazi, my final question to you, sir. Opposite to the government, the Parliament is the only entity that could come out with very inspiring ways, let me put it that way, to be able to feed the worries of the people in the Egyptian street after the latest economic reforms. What do you have as priorities on the table for the second round of sessions for the Parliament? People are very anxious to hear.
Duties of the Parliament right now is to make sure that the very essential basic products, price-wise, should be controlled so that we don't see a huge inflation, which is, of course, and the burden of the Egyptian average person. Bear in mind that we have over 5 million individuals who work in the government. So their salaries has to be somehow adjusted for what is going on as depreciation of the currency. So these are issues that are of extreme importance, and I think we have already submitted requests and investigations with His Excellency the Prime Minister regarding what are the measures taken to protect the public sector employees, and number two is to protect the control of prices from acceleration from some mafia, as you saw in wheat, you saw it in sugar, and you saw it in a lot of medical products and medicine. So that's extremely important, and I think we are taking charge of this. The question is how responsive the government is. I can tell you that I see a reactive approach rather than a proactive approach from the government. Meaning, whenever things accelerate and whenever they came to be chaotic, they take action. What I want them to do is to be proactive, to forecast for the next round of the second tranche of the IMF, which will come soon, but it will come after evaluation monitoring from the IMF responsible officers and officials. So that's, I think, what we are really working on right now. Controlling prices, making sure that the basic products are there at affordable prices, and if not, then we have to look at the whole formula of substance, because you can see that we have so many people who are in the substance list, but they don't deserve it because they are out of the needing or the poor grounds.
Right. Dr. Ibrahim Hijazi, a member of parliament, thank you very much for your time, sir. And going back to you, Dr. Abdullah. Dr. Hijazi kindly touched on what we were talking earlier to the phone call, which is controlling the hiking prices. But let me talk to you about the steps that could be taken in a series of steps, one by one, and escalating steps to be able to control the Egyptian market, to be able to ease the woes of the Egyptian street. As a former member of parliament, what steps could be taken? I mean, they have a long duty to effect. And just on the spot, starting from this very moment, what are they supposed to do?
They have to increase the punish penalty for those who are abusing the market. This is number one. Number two, the government will, there will be more activity in the market. You can find officers which can, go to the shops and ask about the prices and in the markets and so on. Number three, you have to open channel with the citizen who have any problem to contact through this channel about the place where this abuse or increasing the prices above normal. This is number three. Number four, we have to talk really, not to give a false statistics.
Transparency.
Yes, transparency.
We only have one moment, but I have a very important question to you very briefly. Do you think that the tax reform policy that was issued or legislated by the parliament is going to succeed in increasing the resources of the state?
I still feel that the taxes is not higher enough on the high income. My opinion, it has to be more higher than that. Let us look to the United States and make like
capital gain tax.
Yes.
It's a rule.
I will not suggest anything. We have a country, a capitalistic country called the United States. Let us look for the taxes on the high income and do the same. We are less than them. Okay. So I feel that they are still kind enough for the rich.
Do you think they're taking a lenient position towards the...
Yes. This government, yes. It's like that. It's like that.
I'm not sure if we have extra minutes over... Ashraf Makram, the director of our program, is telling me that we're supposed to be packing and leaving because we're almost done. Dr. Salah Abdallah, former member of parliament and the political analyst, would like to thank you, an economic analyst, would like to thank you very much for coming over as usual with your valuable input. And this is where we end this edition of Windows and Current Affairs. Thank you very much for joining us, and please do join us again next week. Until then, that's a goodbye.